Hey guys, this is gonna be a guide when it comes to how to play the newest character in Reverse 1999, Chen Higuang. The good thing about this character, if you wanna say so, is that you don't actually have to play him. He doesn't have any incantations, and all he does is use his ultimate at the beginning of the battle, and then like every 3 or 4 turns he recasts his ultimate. And this is how you play Chen Higuang. I hope that video was fun and informative. I'm kidding, of course, but you will see right here in battle that you actually don't need to play this character. There is still some things that we can go over, because if you play him in his best team, which you should, Chen Higuang cannot be played in any other team than this very one right here. He's not a flexible character, he doesn't function without Liang Yue. That is a very important side note that you have to take. This is of course going to be a showcase when it comes to how to play Chen Higuang with his P2 established. We're not gonna talk about this casual nonsense of, oh, you have to play his ultimate out of the green area to cycle him, right? All of this, no. If you play Chen Higuang, you play him in this team and you play him at P2. Otherwise, you don't know what you are doing. Don't pull for Chen Higuang if you don't play him together with Liang Yue. And you really want to P2 him. Otherwise, it's gonna be lackluster and you're gonna waste like 2-3 turns at the very least, and everything comes much more convoluted. So keep that in mind when you're watching this. This is a showcase of how to play him properly, and you can only do so at P2. And then, as I just said, all you have to do is to cast his ultimate. You don't have to do this out of the green area, the P1 takes care of that. And in addition to that, you of course want to establish Flutter Page's ultimate on turn 1. You know how to do this, right? Move, play. If you want me to go into a little bit more depth when it comes to how to play Liang Yue, in case you wouldn't also have her at P2, then you can check out my previous videos where I explain everything in the deepest detail you can imagine. And that's really it. From now on, all you have to take care of is to have Liang Yue perform the correct extra action. She has an extra attack that she performs at the end of every single turn, and you gotta get red and green stacks all together. And depending on if you have more green stacks or more red stacks, she performs a different extra attack. You can perform a third different extra attack if you have the exact amount of stacks established by the end of the turn. You can see the establishments of stacks here in form of a claw that is a visual representation of how many stacks you have right next to your rotation area. Okay, now you can see that we have like 1 red and 2 green. For now, we don't have to worry about this at all. We don't care yet. What we care about is, the only thing that we care about is that we cast Flutter Page's ultimate on this very turn. Doesn't matter of which area or yada, nothing matters. All that you have to take care of is to cast Flutter Page ultimate this turn. Now we have here a very specific situation. That is that we have the incantation number 1 for Liang Yue on both the left and the right hand side of Flutter Page's ultimate. In normal situations, you would just cast Flutter Page ultimate right out of the gate. In this case, we don't want to do that because we don't want to combine our 2 incantation number 1s from Liang Yue. We want to cast Liang Yue's incantation number 1 as much as we possibly can, because that enables us to perform the biggest amount of damage output that we possibly can, aside from, of course, taking care of performing the proper extra actions. But more into that in the next turn. So we cast Liang Yue's incantation number 1. You always, if somehow possible, every time you can, you want to cast this incantation onto herself actually. Then we're gonna go ahead and use Flutter Page's ultimate, incantation number 2. Here, now we have to use Liang Yue's incantation number 1 on someone that we can actually perform an attack with.
Don't waste your breath.
You can see my hand. The only character I could perform an attack with is Flutter Page. So I'm gonna use the incantation number 1 from Liang Yue in that very specific case onto Fatutu, and then I'm gonna go ahead and attack with Fatutu. So that way Liang Yue will perform her, not only her most amount of damage output, but also increase the most amount of damage output you can possibly have with Liang Yue, because using her incantation 1 onto a character that then performs an attack, Liang Yue will follow up on this attack that the character performs that you used her incantation number 1 on. Okay, and then from turn 3 onwards is where the actual game and the actual rotations begin, because from that point onwards we have to take close attention, we have to pay very close attention to what stacks we actually accomplish, what stacks we accumulate, because it is very important that we perform at the very least 1 balanced extra attack with Liang Yue, and then aim at performing 2 green extra attacks in this very same turn. Preferably though, before we perform 2 green extra attacks, we want to perform 2 balanced extra attacks before that. Let me explain to you one more time why that actually is the case. This is the case because only the balanced extra attack gives you a beneficial buff that increases your damage output. You can stack this buff that you get from it up to 2 times. That's what you want to do. And then you want to perform 2 green extra attacks in the very same turn. Why? Because the first green extra attack is to apply a plethora of beneficial debuffs to your enemy. And if you perform this attack now one more time, it will calculate how many debuffs are actually onto your opponent, and based upon that it will deal a tremendously higher amount of damage than it would deal to enemies with no debuffs on them. That's why we want to cast 2 green extra attacks at the very same turn, with best case scenario with the 2 buffs that we apply onto ourselves by performing the 2 balanced extra attacks. That would lead to us dealing the most amount of damage. So what we want to do is pay attention to this claw here. We now have to accumulate 4 stacks. We want 2 green and 2 red, or a little bit of balanced stacks in the mix. So we apply 2 green stacks by playing Liang Yue's incantation number 1 out of the green area. Then we want to play her incantation number 2 out of the red area to accomplish gaining ourselves 2 red stacks. So we're gonna go ahead and do exactly that. Incantation number 1 from Liang Yue out of the green area. Boom, 2 green stacks. You see this right here. Now we want to cast her incantation number 1 out of the red area. That will accumulate 2 red stacks. Now you can see that the red incantation was actually cast out of a balanced area. That is not what you want to do. You have to pay attention to that. So what we actually gonna do is, what we have to do, you have to move the incantation from Liang Yue in this very specific case out of the balanced area, so that by you actually casting it, you accumulate 2 red stacks. You see this? And now we are guaranteed to perform 1 balanced extra action. You have to invest the attention and the AP in order for you to play this correctly. Now you want to perform another balanced extra attack the very next turn. You have to keep in mind now that whatever incantation you play, the second claw for the next turn already fills up with stacks. So you have to keep in mind what stacks you are now actually going to accumulate. So How you want to do this is now you want to cast Liang US incantations out of balanced areas. You can see we always want to use Liang US incantation number 1 first. So as you can see, our entire hand is actually a balanced area. So we can just go ahead and play our incantations. You have to keep in mind though, playing this incantation number 1 from Liang Yue now accumulates 1 balance stacks and a green stack.
Keep your guard high.
Now, playing her incantation number 1 accumulates what? A balanced stack, because you play it out of a balanced area. Plus, it accumulates 1 additional red stack, because that is what this incantation does naturally.
Don't waste your breath.
And now you will see that once we get vision onto the second floor for our next turn, we will have accumulated the perfect amount of stacks, which will lead to us actually performing a second balanced extra attack.
Cleats in the solid stone. A flawless defense.
Here, 1 balanced, 1 green.
Ability.
There we go. The incantation 1 red. See? Boom. There we go. That's how you do it.
My responsibility.
Now you have performed 2 balanced extra attacks. That will lead to you now only needing 3 stacks to perform the very next
You are not welcome.
extra attack. Which, what extra attack do you want to perform right now? The correct answer is a green follow-up attack. In fact, you want to use 2 green follow-up attacks. That would be the very best case scenario for you. And in order for you to accomplish that, you need to play Liang US incantation number 1 as much as you possibly can. So, the first thing you do is you use Cheng Higuang's ultimate. That's 1 red stack. Now we need 2 green stacks. How do we get 2 green stacks? The answer is we use Liang US incantation number 1 out of the green area. We cannot do that though, because unfortunately we don't have Liang US incantation number 1 in a green area right now. A little bit unlucky, but it is not a big deal. That is why we play the unfinished tune. That is the exact reason. So we're gonna go ahead, and now you can see we accumulated 1 incantation number 1 from Liang Yue in the green area, because the green area is always on the left hand side, and our unfinished tune always puts our incantation on the left hand side. That means our incantation number 1 will always land on the left hand side in the green area. This is why the unfinished tune is an absolute must have to play this team correctly. Now we first of all always gonna use Chen Higuang's ultimate every time first. Then that accumulates in our case right now a red stack. No problem, no? Remember, we want to, let me show you with something real quick. The buff here, Swift Resolve, 2 stacks. That is the buff right here that you can read for yourself, that you accumulate by using the balanced extra attacks. That will increase your damage output tremendously. Now remember, we want to perform 2 green extra attacks at the end of every single turn. Now we have 1 red stack, we need 2 green stacks, so we use Liang US incantation to accomplish that. Now our next claw will have 5 stacks, and we want at least 3 green stacks in that very claw. So we use the incantation number 2 for Liang Yue out of the green area. That will net us 1 green stack, because it comes out of the green area, plus 1 red stack, because that is what this incantation actually does by default. Now we need to take care of accumulating more green stacks. We have 1 red and 1 green. So what we want to do is move the incantation number 1 from Liang Yue into the green area. That will net us an additional 2 stacks of green. That would make a total of 4 stacks. Okay, that means we can now use whatever we want out of whatever area we like, because we have already guaranteed us 2 green extra attacks. And this is exactly how you play this team, right? I told you everything. What stacks to accumulate, how these stacks are accumulated, and that the most amount of damage output comes from the balanced extra attacks that give you these stacks of swift resolve. You want to always have 2 of those. After you have accumulated 2 of those stacks, you want to use 2 green follow-up attacks in 1 turn. Since us using 2 balanced extra attacks, we have the luxury of only needing 3 stacks to accumulate 3 stacks in order for us to perform 1 green attack. Then we have to pay attention for the second claw that also accumulates stacks but is out of our vision. So we have to use our brainy brain to keep track of what stacks we have already accumulated. That is what I just walked you through. And that's it. You want to use the incantation number 1 from Liang Yue, if possible always onto herself. Incantation number 1 on herself, incantation number 2. Incantation number 1 on herself, incantation number 2. Exactly what you see right here in my rotation. Sometimes, as you saw throughout the entire video, you have to move her incantations in order for you to accumulate the right stacks. That is something you have to do, and otherwise you wouldn't play this team correctly. Please keep that in mind. You will sometimes get lucky enough to not have so many incantations that I have to do in this video, right? Because the incantations will by chance already land where you want them, right? But you see here, that is not always the case, and pay attention here. This is 1 green follow-up attack. Now we need the 5 stacks and we accumulate those easy. And watch this, we will perform a second green attack in just 1 turn. Why? Because we played it absolutely perfect and we did exactly what we have to do. And this is how you play the best follow-up attack in the entire game to absolute perfection. And from now on, you always just gonna repeat. Now we can hop in and take a look at the best in slot Psycube, for Chen Higuang and his resonance real quick. The best in slot Psycube can be found in the bank and in the fragment shop. Here you will find the brand new Psycube for Chen Higuang. You're gonna purchase that, and of course you're gonna max it out. It is called All Honor Is But Dust. What it does is it gives you flat out attack, and when the carrier attacks, if it is a follow-up attack, you deal increased damage. When the carrier casts an ultimate, which you always do, if the ultimate is a follow-up attack, which it is, then all allies gain incantation might plus 6%. Why is this incredibly good? Because you will always use incantations that actually deal damage with Liang Yue herself, and yeah, even her teammates if you absolutely need to. So this incantation might comes in clutch. It synergizes perfectly with everything else that the ultimate also does. So this is his best in slot Psycube. Now for his resonance, we want to focus everything onto critical hit rate, critical damage, and yeah, sprinkle some damage bonus into there as well, because again, it synergizes with everything that he does perfectly. We're gonna use the special piece elucidation. You can copy this, what you see right here on your screen, or you can also check the description of this video. I will copy this resonance code and put it there. Now, yeah, I don't need to mention his portraits. You know all about his portraits and why you need the P2, right? I explained everything concerning this kind of topic 100 times in my previous video in the deepest detail you could possibly ask for. I hope this video was fun and informative. If you like Reverse1999 content in general, please consider leaving a follow on my channel. I would really appreciate it. If you have any questions, please join my Discord server and ping me there. Link to that is in the description down below. But until next time, take care of yourselves, have a great day, and we love this game.